Hi, everyone. This is Jane Hatch. I have a new name for my podcast, Explore the Unknown. And I'm here with Penny Bradley, who is quite well known among the SSP community. I'm going to read her slight bio, and then we're going to get right into it. Penny Bradley is a whistleblower and experiencer from the SSP, Secret Space Program, known for her detailed recollection of Nachtwaffen, night fleet. Is that what that means in German?
Um,
Nachtwaffen.
it would be a night weapon, and they use it to mean space fleet.
Okay.
And it's plural because every planet has their own.
Sounds like a long, different video we could get into. My gosh.
Yeah.
Through memory activation by the NSA and later regression, she has revealed shocking details and insights into my lab programs, military abduction,
Mhm.
off-world slavery, space. What is that word? Spacecraft technologies and consciousness manipulation. Her channel serves as a hub for other reclaiming secret space program memories and recollections. And she has a direct link to Illuminus, which is a high level being who informs her of world events. Is that correct?
That
All of
works.
that correct. Did you want to add anything to this
Um,
description?
my family thought we were poor white trash. And that's how I was raised. And they had absolute amnesia over who we were, where we were from, which to me screamed liar, 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 liar. So in 2005, I started doing my family tree on Ancestry. And in 2010, this Illuminus, this man, he was 18 at the time and was attending Yale and was in Skull and Bones. He reached out to me and he says, Penny, you're really smart, but you obviously went to public school. You want to learn what you missed? And then he spent the next 15 years giving me reading lists. And it's like in college, they give you the list of what you're supposed to read and you have to find the books. And some of these books were 800 bucks a piece. So I got a lot of free PDF downloads. And it gave me a completely different view of the world. And he has never asked me to do anything illegal, immoral, or wrong. He does leak me information that he thinks the world needs. And in the whole 15 years, he's never lied to me once, and his predictions always come true.
Is this the information you share at conferences and in videos, or is it a compilation of his wisdom and your own personal experiences off world?
When I talk about the space program, I'm talking about my memories plus research I've done. And if it's research, I'll tell you where you can find it. When I'm talking about on world technologies, I give you links where you can find it 90% of the time. Sometimes the links have been deleted. Um, I noticed in 2016 a lot of things disappeared, and that's happened again this year. Google search is coming up with next to nothing
Yes,
compared
I've
to
noticed that.
the pages and pages there used to be. They're literally deleting all of these. And it's frustrating, terribly frustrating.
Yeah,
But
especially if you've been around for a few decades and you understand how research was available and how it's less and less options. When you Google something, you'll see like three or four things come up and you know they're like AI or deep state. And
Hmm.
sometimes you can't even go deeper. You used to be able to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you'd finally, but now I don't find that deeper. And so I understand exactly what you're saying. Things are getting
Yeah.
wiped. So if you can download, make hard copies, preserve history.
They're making it harder to upload PDFs too.
Mm.
I have a Substack, and my intention was to have a link where you could find it online and then have a PDF where you could download it yourself. And Substack doesn't allow that. I cannot upload a PDF to them. There's a lot of them, they're just not allowing that to happen. And I have a server sitting here next to my knee that I can't figure out how to set it up. And
Sorry.
I have asked several IT guys in our area, and none of them want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. And I'm wondering why. Because what I want to do is have this server for our archive, for SSP, for ufology. I mean, real ufology, the people who have done research for the last 100 years, because ufology actually starts in ancient history, and the documentation starts in the 1800s. So we have 2 centuries of documentation, papers that are digitized. We have video. We have interviews of people who were researchers, interviews of people who were experiencers, and people who were survivors. Going back to 1930s, we have this. It's all available. People who think SSP started with Corey Good are wrong. People who think that the super soldiers started in 2014 are wrong. It goes back. It goes back. What happened was in about 1930, humans started creating super soldiers. Before that, it was all done by extraterrestrials, usually the Shahami, sometimes the Greys. And all of that's available. And I have at least a terabyte of these files that I can't put online anywhere because nobody wants to host them.
Well, maybe somebody will be listening to this today and they'll step forward.
Well, I have the server. It's running server 2019. So I just need somebody to help me set it up online.
Well,
And
if there's anybody out there, please step forward. We could use this information being preserved.
thank you.
So before we get into the topic tonight, which is roughly the fate of the human female on planet Earth, I just wanted to ask you, I said that you were sort of the SSP extraordinaire, and what are you most known for, Penny, and why? That was a very broad term I used, and I wouldn't know what to say. Is it Knocklaffen? But before we go on, just to sort of encapsulate you, why are you so well known in this secret space program?
I was the first German officer to come public.
Wow. Okay. Can you elaborate just a little?
Um, I'm American. I'm not even of German descent. I'm mostly Scottish, French, Jewish. Yes, Jewish. My grandmother was Jewish. My great grandfather on my father's side was a Windsor bastard. So I'm bloodline, but I have no titles, no nothing. I'm just a mutt with royal descent. And In my father's words, I was too smart for my own good. I was always in trouble. I've been a truther and a political activist, not for either party, but for truth, justice, and ethics.
Yes, exactly. Me too.
And that has confused a lot of people because I'll support one topic, so they'll say, oh, you're a Democrat. No.
Yes.
I'll support another topic because it's ethical, and they'll say, oh, you're a Republican. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. Um, but I have this history going back into the late 1960s when I was still a child.
Yes, me too.
I was researching the events of the day. And I was one of those kids. I knew how to use the card catalog really well. I knew how to read microfiche. I could hold it up and read it, you know, which is really hard because you needed a magnifying glass.
Yep.
But I graduated high school in 73. So we're talking, I've had a long, long, long time of looking at both sides of every question and figuring out what I believed, regardless of what the political atmosphere said was to be believed. And in 2013, an NSA agent from the department that translates Russian into English. So they're spies, but they're translators. They normally work in an office at Fort Meade, but they don't always. And he used my remember code. And the way he acted, I think he thought he was activating the altar, but he didn't. He activated the altar's memories. So I get this big lump. It's all in German or Schwabisch, a dialect of German. It's all in Schwabisch, and the nastiest stuff's on top, and the very nastiest thing at the very top of the pile were Jurassic Park raptors coming through the wall and killing people. And the children there are, I was a child in the memory, everybody's speaking Schwabisch. And I looked at this and I go, that could not have happened on Earth. So I couldn't translate the German. I mean, I can hear the words, but what the words are in Schwabisch is not necessarily what they translate on even Google Translate because they're translating High German instead of Schwabisch. So I had to do a lot of research to know what I was remembering. Now, you'll hear a lot of people talk about, well, I kept my memories pure. I didn't have that luxury. I spent 3 years hunting through everything in the record. And in 2013, there was still record online. You could go through, and I ended up with the work of Michael Ralph. Now, nobody knows who Michael Ralph is. Michael Ralph is the first self-admitted SSP survivor.
Really?
Documented. And his wife was a psychiatrist, and the two of them used muscle testing to find out why he was having flashbacks.
Oh, wow.
His entire testimony is based on muscle testing. And
Interesting.
he has a website where you can download his book for free as a PDF.
Oh, we'll have to put that in the notes underneath. What's his name?
Michael Relf, Relfe.
I want to see that myself.
And he talked his service was completely on Mars. And all of his testimony came from muscle testing. So I have the utmost respect for how much work he and his wife Stephanie put into that. He is now deceased. But I make sure I give credit because without Michael Ralph, without Randy Kramer, uh, without Dr. Farrell, Joseph Farrell, um,
Max Spear, do you
Max
consider?
Max Spears is incredible, but I
Yeah.
didn't meet him until I was already public.
Mm. Oh, this
So
was the people that you
these are the
acquired
people
information.
that
Okay.
I used as research. Um, Jim Mars, um, the books about the Romanian pyramid. Uh, can't think of the guy's name. They were translated by Peter Moon, but he isn't who wrote them. Um, the Transylvanian set.
Well, but
I,
there
I
the
read, I read, I read, okay. When my memories were activated, I was lucid 24/7. I could not sleep unless I took a Benadryl and knocked myself out. And so I was reading or watching video or something all the time because I had to know what it was I was remembering. And in 2016, the CIA started shooting at me, or at least I assume it was the CIA. They also got my partner Lou, and by the third time we got shot, it was like, okay, Bill Cooper said if you know they're going to kill you, to hide in the spotlight, so that way when they do kill you, it verifies everything you said.
right, yeah. That is a element of protection.
And I have since had a DOD agent tell me that that's the only reason I'm still alive is because I'm public. So there's that element to it. Now, what am I most famous for? If you talk to people who knew me 20 years ago, I was a bookworm, that I was passionate about human rights, that I was a pain in the butt to the government because I kept writing to my congressman and saying, I want you to vote this way on this. And they would send me back this form letter saying that, pat me on the head. Thank you for your input. um, I was a religious fanatic until my memories were activated. I went to seminary. I mean, when I say I was a fanatic, I was a fanatic. So people who knew me before 2000 would tell you that I was like a nun, but I was married. Well, I was put through 2 years of weekly exorcisms and then excommunicated because I divorced my husband.
What church was this?
The Episcopal Church,
In the South? The Midwest?
California.
California? Okay, that's a surprise. I thought you were going to say like Alabama or something. You know what I
Oh
mean?
no, 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 California. I was raised Church of Christ Anti. In my 30s, I converted to Episcopalian. So here I am in in 2000. I would have been what, 45 years old, and I was excommunicated for divorcing my husband because he moved his ex-wife into my house. He
I
had
remember this
he
story.
it's been a wild, trippy ride. Both of my legal husbands tried to kill me, and I was afraid to get married again, is why I'm not actually married to Lou.
Hmm,
But
interesting.
we've been living together for 24 years, so we might as well be
Hmm,
married.
nice. I would say it's nice to have a partner after all you've been through and have a little bit of support. Is that correct?
That's wonderful. I could not
Okay.
I could not ask for better, and he's probably grumbling under his breath because I've been a pain in the butt today. Uh,
Aw.
uh, I get in these moods where it's like it's we talked before the show about that I'm autistic, and there are times when I start getting sweaty. It's like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. You have to help dress me because I can't get it to slide down my back. Don't touch me.
Yeah. That sounds like tactile defensiveness. I don't know. That's low spectrum autism, but I'm going to
Well,
say that
I'm like at the point that I can't mask. So I'm a little beyond low spectrum.
okay. Well, it's not
I'm like Sheldon, only female.
it's not screaming at me today that you're autistic, that's for sure. But I'm going
Okay.
to say that I feel like you're very well known for what you said about being a German officer. Was it as an alter on a Nazi ship? You were trained. One of your
They're
alters, or
not
was it you?
Nazis out there. They're just
Were-
Germans.
They're just Germans on a German
They're
ship.
on a German ship. They're not Nazis out there. Nazi was a political party that lasted for 30 years, and it's dead and gone, and it never made it into space. They
Certainly
did,
made it into America with Operation Paperclip, but it did
yes,
not make it into space, is what you're saying?
they did not make it into space. All of the actual Nazis stayed on Earth.
Antarctica or no?
Antarctica did not allow them inside the gates.
Interesting. So it was German, but not Nazi in
It was
Antarctica.
German. They still used German uniforms.
Mhm.
So Americans who are going with surface memories scream Nazis. People who go into depth in their memories and have the memory of more than one alter start getting nuances that somebody with just surface memories doesn't have. And they're just Germans.
Yeah, we had a really interesting conversation about this before, how they're just such two separate entities, and the Germans did not approve. The German aristocracy did not approve of Hitler and his regime, and
Actually, the German aristocracy put him in power because
yes,
the Weimar Republic the Weimar Republic was basically doing a genocide of their own people. They were printing they were printing money as fast as they possibly could to pay off the debt from the Treaty of Versailles. And what it did was it so devalued the currency that people who were on fixed incomes couldn't buy food. They couldn't buy coal to cook it if they did have it. They were either freezing to death from the cold or starving to death. And there was no recourse. There was nothing that they could do. At the end of World War I, all of the
mm,
aristocracy were locked out of the government by the treaty.
yeah.
And so these were people who had been raised with the idea of noblesse oblige, which is a very old-fashioned concept that if you're going to be in power, you're going to get all of the benefits of power, that you have the obligation to take care of the people.
What an idea.
Yeah,
Wow.
like I said, it's a very old-fashioned idea that's no longer in vogue. I wish it
Mm,
were because it would solve a lot of our problems.
it would.
But at the same time, these people were trying to stop the genocide of their own elderly,
Yes.
their widows and orphans from the war, their veterans from the First World War. They were trying to solve a real problem. And they found this guy, and he had a silver tongue, and he could
Charisma.
charisma, and he said all the right things. They thought they were getting a bargain. They, as long as he did what they said, his
Hitler.
group his group was winning. But
Mm,
he slowly replaced the aristocracy with Jesuits.
yep. You said that.
And that was why I think it was Pope Leo, I forget what number, never excommunicated him, was because he had replaced his entire staff with Jesuits. That was why there's a lot of nobody ever studies that part of German history.
I know.
They just totally ignore that period and they go straight from one war to the next. They totally ignore what happened. And when you talk about it, oh my God, you're a Nazi sympathizer. No, I'm not a Nazi sympathizer. I hate the racism that they had. I hate the fascism. And I'm watching the same thing take over the world now.
Yep.
And I'm not going to name names because I hope if you're aware enough to see it, you're aware enough to know who's doing it.
Yep.
Because that's going to become a big issue over the next decade. So,
Yeah, I think we're
the,
aligned on that because I'm on your Facebook page and I think we're
yeah,
aligned on that.
you've seen the stuff that I share, and most of it I have. Well, I have these days when I am so inundated in Messenger by absolute effing bullshit. And then I read and read and read and read, and I'm telling the same story 50 times, and then I'm like, the autism kicks in, I'm mad, so I write a rant on my wall. And if I know it's going to be controversial, I make it where nobody can comment on it.
I know. I know. I noticed that. I don't
If
blame
I
you.
know they're going to go nuts over it comments are blocked.
We have a large audience, so you're getting the word out. Whatever, you're getting your perspective out. People are seeing it, and you're always going to get kickbacks.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think therefore I'm different. I'm noticing a lot of people seem to be incapable of independent thought anymore. And if they hear multiple sides to things, they don't actually hear any of them. They have chosen a team, and what
mm.
that team says is what they will go with, regardless of the facts. And
Conquer
that's,
and divide. It's an age-old war battle, and it keeps working. Divide the people and conquer them. And they're doing it again now, like lemmings over a cliff. They've divided us, and it's either by
well,
politician or subject.
well, I knew when the bug was still in China. I knew that it was a lab created thing, that it
Mm,
had been leaked, and that the cure for it was worse than the disease. And that not my tutor, but another Illuminus came into my messenger and he was hysterical. That's the best word I can. He was just repeating over and over, I never thought they would do it. I never thought they would do it. I never thought they would do it. And I said, do what? And he says, the head of my group released the bug himself. He says, you should be safe because you're Merovingian. And I go, like, I'm going to be happy if the rest of the world dies around me and I'm alive. Really?
Did you get it? Did you get
No,
it?
I've
You
never
never,
gotten it.
you never got. I got it once.
I've never gotten it. Um,
It felt very different than a flu. It really felt like a mind control and a venom. It was very, very different. It was venomous,
yeah,
and
it's
I could.
venomous.
It attacked my brain, and I was thinking things I never think. I had these strange, violent thoughts, like I wanted to tear up all my flowers out of my garden. And that's when my reasoning brain kicked in and go, this is a venom to the brain. Like
Mm,
they're promoting like death and kill myself and kill other people. And so then I was observing the venom until I cycled out of it.
yeah,
It wasn't too bad because I had ivermectin and all of that, but it was bad in
you
a
were
way. It was
blessed.
like a venom. It was a venomous.
Yeah, there's DNA in it, and there's
Yeah.
R the mRNA, and I went to
Yeah.
San Diego State. I was pre-med microbiology. When Yeah, it was in the 80s, but you know, um, when they start talking about RNA, RNA is what your DNA is made from. You have DNA, it separates, it makes a opposite, and that's the RNA, and the RNA comes and makes it duplicate to make a new cell. So if there's something wrong with that RNA, the daughter cell is going to be wrong.
Yep.
So when they said it was an mRNA shot, oh, no way. And this was after I had already been told that the cure was worse than the disease. And I had been told by this man, and he said he was Bavarian Illuminati and Jesuit trained. And he said that particular combination of the bug and the jab were aimed at people with an A positive blood type.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you
The
didn't have to dig.
second, the second disease in the series is aimed at B positive. So
What?
we haven't gotten to that one yet, but he said that that lab had 7 more viruses sitting there, and that the last one in the set was based on Ebola.
Well, that's not good news, Penny.
I don't have good news.
That's
I mean,
probably like
seriously,
no, there's not a lot out there, you know. That's why I try to.
I'm seriously at this point, I don't see any good news. And if we're going to survive as a species, humanity is going to have to stand up and finally say no. But we have what, 70% compliance with that first bug.
I would
Those
say I'm
those
not
people,
shocked that they did it. I'm shocked that of the with the compliance by my fellow human beings. I suddenly knew I was an alien from another time or not space because I was absolutely shocked that people fell into line with the most inane things, including, the mask, the lines on the floor, outdoor, indoor, dining, you go on and on. It was a
oh,
complete mind
we
control F up.
you can eat outside and we'll put a tent around you so that you're safe, but that's not indoors, so you can be in there without your mask. And I'm like, this is insanity.
Yeah, people getting married in big giant bubble, plastic. Uh, that's what
My
shocked
my
me.
na- my neighbor, who is my best friend real world, her mother was in a rest home, and they literally sent people with long-term COVID to the rest home, and her mother died, and she was not allowed to go in and see her. She was not allowed to have a
Yeah.
funeral. It was heartache. This was separating people from basic human emotions. You weren't you weren't allowed to see your grandkids. You weren't allowed to see, we weren't supposed to go across the court and talk to our friend unless we stayed outside. And I don't know about where you live, but where I live, it snows. You know, yes, it snows in places in California. We have mountains here. And so here they were shutting everything down. We lost 80% of our small businesses. That meant that the people that were not essential didn't have a job to go back to. There's nothing, and the community has not recovered. And we're in a place where they have fires all summer long. And there are whole swaths of my county that have burnt to the ground, and they only fight enough of the fire to get it out on the surface. The roots are still burning for years. So there's no growing back because the ground is still on fire.
Well, the whole West has not recovered. We'll never go back. I mean, maybe decades and decades, but we
And th
businesses.
they're using the stratospheric injections are the right and proper term. Everybody knows them as chemtrails. They're using that as fire starters in the forest because they want to burn us out. If
They want to
there's
burn
no,
us into smart cities, get us off our land, away from
yes,
the water, the trees, all the resources that we could be self-sustainable, and into these smart cities. And they're all over Santa Fe. Used to be the land of enchantment. It's the land of imprisonment now. They're calling them white reservations. They're the ugliest buildings on the worst possible pieces of land along highways where you have no access to Mother Earth in any way that's going to be healing or wood or
yeah,
water or anything. They're going to be concentration camps. And I swear there's 8 of huge, they go on and like people go by and they don't even think like who's going to go in all these buildings. Well, every year
us.
they're setting, yeah, we are. They're setting the forests on fire here and telling people, oh, no, you can't go back to your home. Nope, that's done. Been in
No,
your family for
if it's burned twice or been flooded out twice in California, they red flag it and you're not allowed to rebuild.
We've got a FEMA camp a mile from my house that every day I go by, there's more and more cars, more and more people, more and more security. It's all, you can't see in any windows. They've blocked off all the windows. They've got the smart cities going up. This is not going to be a great place to be, because you can see they're prepping for something. So
Well,
anyway,
there is a town about 30 miles from me that has a FEMA camp, and I have deliberately avoided going to see it. I don't want to be more upset. But this is leading into what we were going to talk about, which is what Mr. Schwab had in mind for us, and Mr. Fink is following up on.
Mr. Fink.
Yeah, he's Schwab's replacement.
Okay. We're talking World Economic Forum and what they have in mind for, are you going to say humanity and women specifically they want to eliminate? We
Their
know
overall plan. Did you ever see the sci-fi series Fringe?
I'm not sure. Sounds really familiar.
They had these people from the future that kept going back in the past and watching things. They called them the Hat Men, they called them the Watchers. Turns out they were future humans visiting in the past. And they showed that the future was all male, that they were all clones grown in tubes, that they were all chemically enhanced to be extra smart and have psi abilities, which is exactly what they do to the SSP and super soldiers. By the way, for anybody who's actually carrying the difference between super soldiers and SSP, super soldiers are enlisted men, SSP are the officers. The officers have more information than the enlisted men do in every army, and this is no different. So I basically call it super soldiers slash SSP because we're all the same group. And we're generally treated the same way. And the super soldiers had developed a culture of ultra masculinity. This was the same kind of culture that was portrayed among the future people in Fringe. And okay, if you look, okay, I have a very short video by Klaus Schwab.
Oh yeah, I think you showed that to me.
Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. Whoops. Let me, can I share? Yes, I can share. that one. Okay. Start it at the beginning. Make the volume as loud as it'll go.
Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, the future is already here. The future has begun. It's a new system. It changes us because it's a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological spheres. It's an integration of those spheres. Just think of stencils planted into our brains. The opportunities are immense. And we have to prepare ourselves already now.
Now that was as far as I could find his speech. But he says it's a combination of physical, biological, and technology. And he's calling this his fourth industrial revolution. Now, I could not find where he said that all human births would be by machine by 2030.
It's not very far away.
So that has been scrubbed from the internet because I know I downloaded it. So
do you think the whole transgender movement is one step towards eliminating the female, the biological female?
If you're going to eliminate the biological female, who are the males going to have sex with?
The men that have turned themselves into females or other men?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So if you know you're planning on getting rid of biological females, what are you going to encourage?
Transgender.
Yeah.
Did you see that cover I posted on Facebook that there was about 10 men that won Women of the Year awards on the cover of
I've been
yeah, it was
seeing
all men and they won Women of the Year and they're covering it as like equality and all these crazy words that mean nothing, but it really means eliminating the female they're actually presenting men as a better version of women.
they've always done that.
Even more extreme now.
I was part of the movement for equal rights. Now, I was not part of the pro-abortion movement. And I want to make that clear that I grew up, I was the property of my father. When I got married in 1974, I was the property of my husband. And this was in California.
In the 70s.
In the 1970s, in California, I had to have my husband's signature to get a bank account. I had to get my husband's signature to get utilities turned on. I had to have my husband's signature to rent an apartment. I was unable to buy a car by myself. I was unable to buy anything other than with cash. I had to get a job because he was going to business school. I had to have written permission to get a job. No one would hire me without it. And I had an AA, a college degree. It was in mathematics. I got a job with Tulare County in California as a computer programmer in their data processing department. But I had to have permission from my husband before the application was accepted. In 1975. So yeah, I know what it is to be property. Yeah, I had the right to vote. Voting doesn't matter.
No. We thought it was a goal that would make some difference, but now we got there and we know it doesn't even matter. With
It
all
doesn't
those
matter.
suffrages,
Voting
you
doesn't
know,
matter.
no,
Women were killed because they didn't want them to have the right to vote, but because they
oh,
wanted
it doesn't even matter.
they wanted poor men to think that voting matters. It doesn't. That's one of the things I learned from the Illuminati. Voting doesn't matter. They decide 2 full cycles ahead of time who's going to be president.
Yeah.
So that's it. And if you need proof of that, Aaron Russo said it in one of his documentaries as well. So, but I was property. In 1984, I had my last baby. I had eclampsia, which for those who don't know, it means my kidneys could not handle me and the baby, and my blood pressure was 250 over 150 and had been there for several days. And the doctor wanted to do an emergency delivery 5 weeks early, and my husband said no.
And that was law back,
That was
not in the
law.
80s. In the
That
80s?
was in the 80s.
I can't remember
That was
that
in the
kind of
80s
restriction.
in California. He had to sign that permission for me to have an early delivery because I was too sick to continue the pregnancy and they were trying to save the baby. Okay? He said no. So, bless these doctors. They locked him into an exam room and they
Well,
wouldn't let him leave until he signed. It took him 12 hours to finally get in. Yeah. So
okay.
how do you deal with you had to have an early delivery, you had to have an emergency C-section, and the whole time you know that your husband wanted you to die instead? Well,
Well,
yeah,
it's shocking.
a year later we were divorced, but at that time was when Ruth Ginsburg was having all of those court cases before the Supreme Court that gave us the right to handle our own affairs. Well, now you've got Heritage Foundation wants to take away all of our rights and turn us back into property just like under Sharia. Now, before we go into that, I want people to understand the West is the only place where women are considered human beings.
The only place on the planet
The only
or
place
the universe?
on the planet where
The West.
Europe, including Russia, North America, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. These are the only places on the planet where women are people. Every place else, we're property. And it's locked into their religious dogma. We are property. And if the West falls, so will our status as human beings.
Which is
So
what they would want if they want to eliminate the female. They would want to eliminate the West and America. They would want to bring us down.
isn't that what they're doing?
Yes, America is no longer recognizable to me
Well,
in many ways.
it's still recognizable to me, but I've watched closely as it's changed. We still have people who are decent. We do. They're just not the ones that are making the news. They're not the ones that are hosting podcasts. I mean, we host podcasts because we've been abused by the government. But a lot of people out there are still decent, normal, everyday people. They get up, they go to work, they come home, they eat dinner, they sit in front of the TV, they fall asleep in front of the TV, they get up the next morning, they go to work again. This is their day-to-day lives, and that's the majority.
Yeah, I'm talking mostly about the leadership is unrecognizable. At least before there was a facade, they're not even pretending to be judicial or follow laws or stand up for
Well,
America
there was a
anymore.
time when a divorced man could not lead the country. That was a big deal with Ronald Reagan.
Hmm.
Look at now. We have a man in the White House who's been divorced multiple times, and people are touting him as the Messiah.
The king, no king, king.
Yeah,
Um,
it's I'm still stuck on what Q called him was the Messiah because his name in gematria, come on. You can you can do all kinds of symbology. But
well, metaphors or symbology are powerful and they know it. And I fell for it for a few months. But when they started to say, trust the plan, I knew it was deep state. Because
oh
when you
yeah.
give up your power and trust the plan, and get out the popcorn, that's deep
Now
state.
what's the plan?
Yeah, they don't even tell you, they just tell you to
The
trust it.
plan. Oh, I have to pull up a picture. Yes, 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 yes. I have a graphic that tells you the plan in terms that most people will look at it and freak out. Now, come on, open, enlarge. I've been sharing this a lot of places, so it will be familiar to you. This is from, I believe it was 1979 or thereabouts. This is the plan to divide the world into 10 regions or kingdoms. You notice the green zone number 1,
Hmm.
United States, Canada, Greenland. Gee, who's talking about that?
Mr. Trump.
There's a
Talking.
river that goes between Iran and Pakistan and India. Right here, there's a river there. And this zone goes from the river to the sea. And that's planned to be the people that have that statement that they will have from the river to the sea. And I'm going to just leave that out there because that's the plan. This is the plan of the 10 horns from the book of Revelation. Now, that illuminist that we talked about,
Mm.
he called this the Armageddon play.
And who would rule these kingdoms?
Appointed people in the meantime, but this was set up by the Morgenthau Group,
Mm.
and it's available. I got it from the Club of Rome, and the United States Association of the Club of Rome
Ah,
was formed in 1976. Yes, this is where we tie into the stuff we talked about. Do you know that there was a Club of Rome that was not the USA version, and that Klaus Schwab was a part of it? He was raised in it. So the Club of Rome goals are his goals. This is the goal of the World Economic Forum.
yes.
Yeah, so this is something that you need to know. This is the plan.
And what role does eliminating women play in helping them to achieve this goal?
It doesn't with that goal. Okay, the overall plan is to have a pop. what the plan of the Club of Rome was to limit population first and foremost. They were going to have a goal of a population of 1 billion by 2030, and they've now extended that to 2050. And their ultimate goal is half that number, 500 million people worldwide, or basically the population we have in North America right now is the population of the whole world. Now, if you are going to control that population, you can't have women because women have babies. There was a brouhaha in Japan in 2014 because their president, prime minister, whatever they call him, referred to women as baby incubators, baby machines. That's how we are seen by the people in charge, that's all we're good for is making babies. Well, Klaus Schwab said that by 2030, all births would be done through birthing machines. So if women are only good for making babies, and they've replaced that function with machines, what are they going to use us for? At that point, it would be a very simple step to simply stop making girl babies. Now, look at
So
what
it all becomes synthetic and not clones, but synthetic. Don't they need an egg, even if it's test tube? Or can they create that now?
They can use a skin cell to replace an egg. A skin cell and a sperm is all they need to make a new baby.
So, what is your guide, Illuminus? I know that we didn't get really deep into this, but it's already 4:30 for me.
No,
What does
well,
your guide, Illuminus, perceive for the future? What has he shown you in regard to some of these topics we've covered?
he's showing me that the experiment in self-rule was a failure, that the public is crying out for authoritarianism.
I do see that.
That the masses are not wise enough to think for themselves. They are foolish enough to follow strongmen because they're not past their daddy issues. And he described to me what would be a two-tier society. He described it in terms of feudalism in the past, and you have an aristocracy who is wealthy and pretty much can do what they want and is living an altered carbon lifestyle where they're part machine and part human and basically immortal. And then you have the masses, which are less than 500 million, and they're all male, and they live in those concentration camps, and they're allowed 2 outfits maximum, and they're allowed to wash them once a month, and they eat bugs.
In the smart cities. They're corralled into smart cities.
They're corralled into smart cities, 15-minute cities, and they're slaves until they are replaced by robots. The goal was to completely eliminate the Rh positive part of the population and the Rh negative part that was below 140 IQ. That's their goal.
Now they have templates on other planets for this type of life, feudal system. Are there planets where they're living as kings and queens and then the rest of the population is slaves? Aren't there templates for what they're doing here on Earth and other planets? Or is there more freedom in other planets? Or is it very different in every planet?
I was never around the civilian populations. So I really don't know what they're doing on other planets. Humans, I know that the Draco have a system where they have an aristocracy. They have these 5 families that inbreed to produce the next queen, but the rest of the society has a caste system where, because they have 7 species that they're working with, each species has its own territory, so to speak. But they're not able to reproduce between the species, so they're kind of stuck. There's no in-betweens. Here on Earth, the Rh negatives and the Rh positives are able to reproduce if the female is Rh positive. And so we have this large and growing in between. And they're seeing that middle class as a threat because some of us are just as smart as they are. And they're seeing that as a threat because we're like this chaos zone that they don't know what we're going to do. But
And as far as depopulation, I mean, the jab was a big part of that too. It's causing a
yeah,
lot of infertility and stillbirth
there's
and
been a lot of experiments in that region. The regular normal jabs, the baby shots, they're all contaminated with human pregnancy hormone, which makes the girls that get them infertile. They're allergic to human pregnancy hormone after their shots. So they can't carry a baby. And what's worse, they get pregnant, but they miscarry. And it's just heartache. And it's to the point where even the leadership in Kenya has recognized it's a problem, and they've stopped allowing Bill Gates to come in with his immunizations because his are more contaminated than everybody else's. So the third world has finally started to realize that these are depopulation agents. They're finding out that the food that is given to these people are housed in plastics that have fake estrogens in them that make the males, some of them, it makes them less fertile. It drops their testosterone level. It does make them more controllable, but it also makes them more dangerous. A man who is in his full power also learns to be gentle.
Yes.
A man who is at half power never gets there.
Interesting point. Yes.
And so what they're doing is they're
sort of like the soy boy archetype.
Yes. They're powering down the male and sterilizing the females with the intention of replacing the females with these birthing machines. Now, on top of all of that crap, now we've got AI coming in.
Yeah.
And that's going to be another dumbing down. Now, there's a book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. And it's online. You can get it as a free PDF. If you can get Google to let you find the website, and it's called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, and I think her name is Esserby, but she was the head of education under Reagan. And she documented how Reagan destroyed our public schools and made it where subsequent generations are unable to think, unable to do math, unable to read. And
Or
now
write cursive.
well, they took cursive out of the school system until I think it was 2 years ago. They decided to put it back.
Oh, they
But
did. I'm glad to hear that because one of my daughters did learn it.
but then you've got AI coming in, and these kids don't know how to research. They don't know how to find anything. They don't know how to think. If the AI says it, it's true. Gospel.
All of what you're saying is really scary. I hope there's intervention. I hope we find, the fifth dimension. I hope that people stop following these,
Do you
false
know
leaders.
if you go to the fifth dimension, you have to go through the fourth, and the fourth is the land of the dead.
Yeah.
Going to the fifth dimension means you're dead physically here.
Well,
Be
I don't
careful what you ask
yeah,
for.
yeah. Maybe I said that quickly. I said I'm hoping we start to vibrate at a higher frequency, so that we don't produce as much loosh for these demons to feed on us.
Actually, what we need to do is we need to take back our rights. We need to
Yeah.
take back our space. We need to take back our dignity.
Food.
There are still more of us than there are them.
Yes, that's the thing. There's
And
so many more of us.
I have found in the past that when the public says no, the elites listen.
Yes.
So you have to stand up and say, no, I will not do this. No, I do not consent. Say it, mean it, stand with it.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
and start.
you are going to live feudalism 2.0 as a slave in a 15-minute city concentration camp.
People need to stop worshiping these so-called leaders, these presidents, Hollywood stars. Like we're so much more evil. We have so much more God DNA and so much more vitality than any of these people we see out there. And I constantly encourage people to, stop, you know, developing upon what they're trying to get us to do to divide and conquer.
Well,
Everybody's
they
fighting, and all of
just
a
suck it.
sudden it's going to be over, and
They
you're going to
just
be in a
suck it
smart
all up.
city.
They just suck it all up,
I
and there
know.
it is.
I know. And all, whether it's Epstein or,
Well,
Virginia.
actually, the Epstein files properly applied could clean out a lot of the mess because there's nobody in politics that's not blackmailed.
Yes, exactly.
So if you get the source of the blackmail out and these people have to pay the piper, then that will clean house. And
Yeah,
hopefully the next round will at least be somewhat cleaner.
yeah, try to
And
convince
I personally would like to kick the potheads out of prison and put the pedos in.
that's a good plan. That's a good motto to run on, Penny.
If I were
Yeah.
younger and more energetic, I might run for it. But at this point, I'm 70 years old and I know my limits. I do good to do interviews.
Yeah.
I see myself as okay, in ancient times there would be a watchtower and there would be a person in there that would watch the horizon for when the enemy was coming. I'm that person. I'm screaming from the watchtower. The enemy's at the gates.
At the
You have
gates.
to arm yourself, protect yourself, or you're going to die. That's the
Stop
stage we're at
worshiping.
now.
Yep. We're going to die. We're going to die a miserable death too, with
Oh,
horrible food, water, housing. It's not going to be an easy death either, unless we wake up now, I think. We
Yeah,
still got a chance.
it's going to be a painful death if you don't fight back. So, are you going to fight and die with your boots on, or are you going to let them kill you slowly and painfully?
Yep.
That's your choice. It's not a matter of living peacefully like an ostrich with your head in the sand and your ass up exposed.
There's nowhere to hide anymore. You can't go out in the world. You can't hide from this anymore. There's nowhere to go. You have to face it.
They switched from chips to your personal frequencies in about 1998. You don't, they can track me anywhere in the galaxy by my frequencies.
Yep,
Do
me
you
too.
think you can go hide in the forest and they can't find you?
I've heard a
Seriously?
targeted individual say they're out in the middle of the ocean and they're still tracked. They're tracking you on your DNA.
Yes, they're
There's just
tracking you on your personal frequency.
yeah. And
And and you can't escape. You're going to be killed. Are you going to sit back and take it, or are you going to stand up and say, hell no, I won't go?
see the problem is people think they're fighting it. If they're defending Trump or they're defending the left, they think they're fighting it and they're just drowning. They don't even know what the real fight is. That's the scary part.
If you
Is
know
they
their names, they're puppets. E-
exactly
Even
they're
Klaus
blackmailed.
Schwab,
If
even Fink, who took over after Schwab left, after he resigned, they're puppets. If you know their name, they're
exactly.
puppets. The real people who run the world, you never know their names.
That's right. If they're on the world stage, they're puppets, they're blackmailed, they're deep state. If you know them, don't worship them. Don't think they're going to help you. Don't think they're going to lead you, except for over, the cliff and into the snake pit.
They will
And I,
only keep you alive as long as it benefits them.
yes. And both Penny and I are getting hit with directed energy weapons and scalar, and we both brought our organite.
Yeah.
It was like show and tell before we started filming, and
Yeah, show and tell. This
show
one's
and
mine.
tell. And
Mine has
we actually
shungite
did.
in it.
Yeah, and I use this right next to my navel because they seem to want to hit me right in my shaman center, and this seems to prevent it. I mean, they're still working on my head and other parts, but organite is really helping me. And maybe we could end on that point of
Yeah,
organite and
or organite will slow down some of the attacks, yes.
yes. Luckily, they're not hitting me from above anymore. That was brutal. But they are still from the floor up. I guess that would be called scalar. I'm not sure when they do it on the ground. That's
Um,
different than
the
overhead.
sca the scalar is like a sideways wave
Okay.
instead of an up and down wave, and
Okay.
it scatters differently. It's a different class of waves.
Well, thank you, Penny. I feel like a little bit like we're at the edge of, we're at a precipice, humanity, and we need to wake up yesterday. And I hope that if
Yesterday
people,
would have been good, but today is what we have.
yeah, we exactly, and we can do it. Start looking at your neighbors and your family and your friends as, the only ones that are going to be around soon, when they come for you, that nobody's going to care what you're saying on Facebook. That's for damn sure. Trump could care less about any of you and both sides. So it's us. It's up to us now. And so thank you,
It's
Penny.
always been up to us.
It's always been us. It's always
Yes.
been us. That's why they try to destroy our self-esteem and self-confidence and our powers because they don't want us to know how powerful we really are. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And I know we'll cross paths again. It probably won't be at a conference because I don't think either one of us want to go. And I'm not even invited. I couldn't handle crowds like that anyway. But we'll
Well,
cross paths, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Penny.